Right now, there's a good chance you're paying $20 a month for AI, and you assume reasonably that the paid version is the best version, that the world's best AI lives behind a paywall owned by a giant company, rented to you 1 month at a time. That assumption just died, because as of this month, the world's best AI might be suddenly completely free. Here's how it happened. On July 16, 2026, a Beijing lab called Moonshot AI released a model named Kimi K3, and within days, independent benchmark trackers were scoring it at or near the level of the top closed American models, the $20 ones. Then the entire thing appeared on Hugging Face, the giant online library where the world shares AI the way programmers share recipes. Anyone on Earth could download it. No contract, no bill, no permission slip. To understand why that's an earthquake and not a marketing stunt, you have to freeze this story right here and ask a simpler question first. When you download a multi-billion-dollar artificial intelligence, what actually lands on your hard drive? A file. That's it. Not an app, not a website, not a glowing server room. Strip away the chat window and the friendly typing animation, and every AI you've ever talked to collapses into one gigantic file filled with billions of numbers. Engineers call those numbers weights, and you can picture them as the tension settings on billions of tiny guitar strings. Tune them randomly, and you get noise. Tune them just right together, and you get music. Training an AI is the tuning process. The model reads oceans of text, and every time it guesses the next word wrong, its strings get nudged slightly toward better, trillions of times, until noise becomes answers. So that file is the treasure. Not the logo, not the brand. The file. Releasing it openly, what the industry calls releasing the weights, means publishing the treasure itself, like a drug company spending billions inventing a cure and then posting the complete formula online on launch day. Why would anyone do that? Hold that question, because the answer is the strangest part of this story. And while you wait, keep the number 2 in your head. It will matter soon. Because this collision was years in the making. In 2023, Meta's language model, LLaMA, slipped out onto the open internet, and instead of burying it, Meta eventually leaned into openness. Suddenly, hobbyists were running serious AI on gaming laptops. Then, January 2025 happened. A Chinese lab called DeepSeek released a freely available reasoning model so capable and reportedly so cheap to build that it briefly wiped hundreds of billions of dollars off American tech stocks. One free file moved markets on 2 continents. Investors called it a Sputnik moment. Washington demanded to know how a lab working under chip restrictions had pulled it off. And through all the noise, one belief survived, the belief holding up the entire AI economy. The frontier, the very best models, would always stay locked away. Kimi K3 is what broke that belief. It wasn't a knockoff trailing a year behind the leaders. The trackers put it at the frontier. And it didn't arrive alone, because Alibaba kept shipping open versions of its Quen models, and even American startups joined the wave with open releases of their own. The gap between the AI you rent and the AI anyone can download has nearly closed, which leaves a question hanging over every boardroom in San Francisco. If the best tool is suddenly free, what happens to everyone who sells it? Follow the money and it gets stranger. Building a frontier model has 2 wildly different costs. The first is training, that string tuning process, and it is brutal. It runs on tens of thousands of specialized chips called GPUs, graphics processors born to render video games that turned out to be perfect for AI's raw math. And most of them come from one company, Nvidia, selling the picks and shovels of this entire gold rush. The chips run for months, drinking enough electricity to power a small city. Training is the billion-dollar mountain. The second cost, inference, is just running the finished model to answer your one question, and it costs a fraction of a cent. Building the orchestra versus pressing play on the recording. Now, remember the number you're holding? 2. In 2012, a neural network, one of those string-tuned learning systems, called AlexNet stunned researchers by crushing the ImageNet image recognition contest, and it trained on exactly 2 consumer graphics cards sitting under a desk. 2 cards then, tens of thousands now. What changed in between is a discovery so simple it sounds like cheating. These systems obey scaling laws, the finding that making the model bigger and feeding it more data makes it smarter in a way you can predict, almost like a formula. No stroke of genius required. More strings, more tuning, more electricity. That discovery turned AI from a science race into a spending race, and spending races go to the deepest pockets, which made the paywall feel permanent. So why is it collapsing? Here's the twist. Giving the treasure away is the strategy. Not charity. Strategy. Business thinkers call it commoditizing your compliment. You've already lived through it once. Google gave away Android for free, and billions of phones funneled the planet toward its search and its ads. Give away the thing next to your product, and demand for your product explodes. An open AI model works the same way. Developers build on it. Universities teach with it. Startups ship products on it. Every one of them gets pulled toward the giver's tools, the giver's cloud, the giver's standards. The free file becomes gravity. That's the answer you've been holding, and a second force multiplies it with a name that sounds like alchemy. Distillation. A big model can train a smaller one, the way a master chef writes a recipe a home cook can follow, and the student captures most of the teacher's skill at a fraction of the size. Every time the frontier goes public, its abilities leak downhill into cheaper models that run on ordinary hardware. Capability doesn't just spread anymore, it compresses. And that is why governments walked into the room. In late July 2026, a coalition of American startup founders sent an open letter to Washington with a request almost nobody saw coming. Don't cut off the Chinese models, because by then, huge numbers of American companies were building their products on those free downloads. Sit with that. Small businesses in Ohio and Texas running on a brain trained in Beijing. Meanwhile, safety-focused labs like Anthropic published position papers wrestling with the trade-off underneath it all. A closed model can be patched, filtered, monitored, switched off. An open model cannot be recalled. Ever. Once the file is out, it lives on 1 million hard drives, and no update, no lawsuit, no government order can reach a single one of them. Freedom and control, pulling in opposite directions. Be honest with yourself. Which one would you choose? Because the choice is yours now, and that's the part the subscription page never mentions. The AI you used this morning lives on someone else's computer. Every question you ask travels to a data center, gets processed on machines you'll never see under rules you didn't write, at a price that can change on someone else's schedule. A free, open model flips every one of those defaults. The file can sit on your own machine. Your questions never leave the room. No monthly fee, no rate limit, no quiet log of everything you've ever asked. Engineers already do this daily, running distilled models on laptops, mini PCs, even phones, using a trick called quantization, which rounds the model's billions of numbers to lower precision the way a studio recording gets compressed into a smaller audio file. You lose a whisper of quality. You gain a mind that fits in a backpack. Hobbyist forums are already full of people comparing notes on which model runs best on which secondhand laptop, the way gearheads tune engines in a garage. The heaviest models still want serious hardware. But every month the cost falls, and the intelligence moves closer to you. So picture what that unlocks. A doctor's office running a medical assistant entirely offline, where patient records never touch the internet. A school that could never afford enterprise licenses, teaching with a frontier-class tutor that costs only electricity. A translator in your pocket that works in a dead zone, on a plane, in a blackout. A small business with a tireless analyst that never bills by the hour and never phones home. What do those pictures have in common? None of them ask permission. And here's the uncomfortable flip side of that coin, the cost of not paying attention. The people who understand what free frontier AI can do are already building with it. And the gap between them and everyone still assuming intelligence requires a subscription will be measured in money, in opportunity, in leverage. Free only helps the people who know it exists. Keep both eyes open though, because the same file serves everyone. The scammer downloads the same free brain the doctor does. Safety guardrails trained into an open model can be sanded off by anyone with modest skill, and nobody can push a fix to a file on a stranger's hard drive. That's the honest shape of the trade. Closed AI concentrates power in a few boardrooms that can enforce rules. Open AI hands power to everyone and enforces nothing. Someone carries the risk either way. The only real question is who? A boardroom or everybody? Either way, the ground under the industry is already moving, Because when a billion-dollar thing becomes free, its value doesn't vanish. It migrates away from the model itself toward everything around it. The chips that run it, the data that grounds it, the products wrapped around it, the trust of the person using it. It's the lesson Nvidia already taught the whole industry. In a gold rush, the fortune goes to whoever sells the shovels. The spell is becoming public knowledge, and everyone who sold the spell now has to sell something else. So look again at that $20 a month. You assumed it was the price of the best. Now you know what it really buys. Convenience, polish, and a landlord standing between you and a file that may match it for free. The world's best AI escaping its paywall isn't a discount. It's a transfer of power from locked server rooms to anyone with a hard drive, and it cannot be reversed. So the question stops being what the machine costs. It becomes what you will do with a mind that is suddenly free. Because somewhere right now, someone with no budget and no permission is downloading the same intelligence the giants rent out and building something nobody saw coming. And who knows? The next one could be you.